Alrighty, we are done with the sock puppets sticking up for the TriMet police state. We're done with that. It was very fun. I found it very enjoyable listening to those puppets. And now we're back to our regularly scheduled program, which is the TriMet board meeting. So let's see what else is going on at the beloved TriMet board meeting.
5-43, which is authorizing modifications to the Streetcar Master Agreement and Streetcar Operating Agreement with the City of Portland.
Board President, members of the board, as you know, our history has been that right after our budget is adopted, we update the agreement with Portland Streetcar, Inc., our partner in operating the Portland Streetcar. Indeed, you know that our operators and maintenance staff actually contribute to the operation, actually operate the streetcars themselves. That's supplemented by other staff that's provided by the City of Portland, so it's a combined operation with a share of costs that are really defined by master agreement that you approved some years ago. So for this year, we do see a few puts and takes associated with that agreement. But fundamentally, pretty much a flat bottom line number, moving from fiscal year 2017, $7.5 million to about $7.6 million for the 2018 budget. This will continue the services of the streetcar at about the same level that we currently have. I would just note that with staff, we are working to see if we can actually enhance some of the early morning hours on the north-south line. That may be a modification or may be able to be accomplished within the resources we see here. But we continue to work, I think, very collaborative, very in a great partnership with the City of Portland and Portland Streetcar, Inc., which actually is the oversight body associated with the Portland Streetcar. So happy to answer any questions. I would also note that in future years, as we begin to transition to the HOP Fast Pass, some of the puts and takes you see associated with the agreement will change because we'll know specifically what the share of fare revenue that we owe streetcar is, as opposed to current TriMet passengers transferring to the streetcar. So we'll have much better information, much direct information that will lead to direct payments related to the split of that fare revenue.
Well, I'm sure most people that are following any of this material are aware of the Portland Streetcar and the millions of dollars that go from TriMet into keeping that thing going. And streetcars were reintroduced in Portland. And it's basically white privilege transit, you know, because they could do the streetcar with a bus. It would have cost zero to just put a bus on there. But once again, we have an example of the capital projects monster dictating policy. And, you know, it also was created to help sell luxurious condos in the Pearl District. I happen to be living right over there when this all started, when they redeveloped the Pearl District and when they brought the streetcar in, and all the ads for those $500,000 to $1 million condos had on them. I remember looking at these, by the way. I saw them myself. Had free streetcar right out your door. I mean, it was a real boost to get those sold. And everybody that knows anything about transit understands the purpose of a streetcar is development. It attracts gentrification because it's that white privilege effect. I personally object to TriMet funds going into this because this really is more or less a PSU shuttle. There's 60,000 free passes on that streetcar. Every PSU student has a free pass, and every OHSU employee has a free pass. And I object to system-wide transit funds being diverted to this particular carnival ride. I mean, I know people use it because it goes right through the PSU campus, right to the richest part of Portland, and you know, I think it's inappropriate, but you know, it doesn't matter what I think because I'm not in control, and the capital projects monster is in control.
With that, be happy to answer any questions, and I also would like to thank Dan Caulfield, who's here, who has spent a great deal of time. One footnote, as we transition to fiscal year 19, we're looking at basing this on an hourly cost of our operation, which we think will be much more advantageous, and it will allow, for example, the City of Portland to add staff if they think it's necessary, and not have an argument with us about the cost of the streetcar operation per hour. So we'll brief you further on that as we transition and develop those agreements, but just to note, we have some transitions afoot that I think are actually advantageous and clearer in terms of their future implementation.
Any questions on this one? Seeing none, is there then a motion to approve Resolution 17-05-43?
So moved.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 17-05-43, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Let's move on then to Resolution 17-05-44, which is authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, we've briefed you before on this regional initiative associated with recent allocations of Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program dollars, MTIP dollars, by Metro. And over the last year, there's been some migration in this program based on a reduction of expected revenues to the metropolitan area. But with that, we've been able to negotiate an agreement with Metro that still allows some of the really key initiatives that were originally anticipated to move forward. And that is an important agreement. It was approved by Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation on May 18th. What that will allow is a stream of funds to come to TriMet. And TriMet is agreeing to bring, should you approve this resolution, agreeing to bring those funds forward so that they can be used in the short term for important transportation improvements. Those improvements that we will be funding as a result would be $25 million of local match for the Division Transit Project. That will be combined with revenues and resources from TriMet, from the City of Portland, and ultimately from the Federal Transit Administration to create much new bus rapid transit line.
The PAL Division Corridor, this is their the brain trust of McFarland and his capital projects cronies. It's a completely useless project. It's not going to speed up anything. If they actually do build that, it's going to ruin the traffic flow on PAL and Division. There's no guarantee there's going to be any federal money for this, but watch, you can see how they're just moving ahead and getting this money. So the board can issue these bonds, and, when the board does that, that becomes a responsibility of the taxpayers to pay that back. And you have these sock puppets making decisions about the citizens are going to have to pay for, and there's been no citizen input on this. TriMet announced this is what they were going to do, and it was pumped by the local media and all the other governmental units. And it's absurd. I mean, it's absurd on its face. Okay, and they've done studies that it isn't even going to speed up the bus time. So this is just a very clear example of the capital projects monster and the control they have over this TriMet and Metro and all the other governmental agencies.
The Southwest Corridor, there's $15 million for draft environmental impact statement and preliminary and engineering work and cost estimating associated with that project.
So you heard him, $15 million just to do the engineering work and the preliminary work. $15 million just to do nothing but plan it out. See, this is it. This is your capital projects monster at work here. How many millions was it? 250 million was wasted on the CRC and not one thing was done? Remember that project? This is what they do. They feed themselves this tax money to do this work, and it might not even be done ever. And it's your government at work, and your government at work is not for you. It's for all of these bureaucrats who are going to get a hold of that money, $15 million just to plan that thing out. Nobody bats an eye. Well, I do, and I'm sure there's other people, but none of that board, none of the board. The board all was like, yeah, give all of our friends $15 million.
Again, ODOT, the JPAC resolution included $10 million for ODOT's project development work for some key highway congestion reduction projects that the board president mentioned earlier.
So there's another $10 million for ODOT so that they can plan. They're going to plan out other works. It's all to keep all of these bureaucrats and these agencies employed. They're planning out this work. You see, they're never going to give up their power here. They have to keep themselves in. They're not going to put themselves out of business. They're going to keep funneling themselves money. For as long as the citizens tolerate it, they'll keep doing it.
And also funds for safe routes to school. So what this resolution does, and Dee can go into any of the details associated with it, is really make good on that agreement with Metro by beginning, by authorizing the bonding of those funds that will allow us to advance funds ultimately for those projects. And I might note that there is a little bit of budget adjustments that go into this associated with the funds will be coming to TriMet, and we'll be using it for, at various points in time, important TriMet investments. But at the end of the day, this is enabling those projects that we have listed here. We did review this with the Finance and Audit Committee again this morning. And Dee, perhaps you'd like to add a note about the resolution itself.
The specifics are that this particular resolution will authorize us to move forward to establish the bond issue that would provide $51 million for the projects that Neil has just described, plus the cost of issuance and capitalized interest to bring the funds forward. The funding stream, the new funding stream, won't actually begin until 2019, but there's a need for the funds in 2017. So we'll be capitalizing interest, but
There it is again, folks. I mean, anybody that pays any bit of attention to this material can see the scam involved with this. So they're going to go out and borrow this. We see this in every single transit project. They're going to go out and borrow the money ahead of time. Again, the banks are going to make another fortune on this because they don't want to wait till 2009. This is such a obvious scam. I can't believe that these people can get away with it like this. People don't understand it. That's why they get away. Nobody's watching this. Nobody's paying attention to any of this. But you heard what you just said, all the financing fees, all the banks get involved in it. And so the taxpayers don't only have to pay back the original bond, but all the goddamn fees on top of the bond and all the interest. And who makes money on it? All these employees at these agencies. They're the ones that get the money. It's all a scam. It's literally a scam.
we expect that not to exceed a grand total of $55 million. So this will start the 60-day clock running, which we're required by Oregon budget law to do, on a new money issue. This would be new money to TriMet. It would be, the collateral will be the new MTIP funding, federal funding. So we would expect to be...
Boy, this just gets better and better and better. There's collateral for this. It's something called MTIP federal funding. That's the first time I've heard that term, MTIP federal funding. I have no idea what it is. I've never heard of it before. But there's some other financial game going on here. You see the kind of games they play? This is the kind of, they're dealing with multi-millions of dollars here, and they're able to play all kinds of games with it. And the citizens don't get any say in any of this. It's all kept away from the citizens.
In the market, probably in September, for this particular issue. We have an opportunity to combine this issue with a refunding of the 2011 bonds, which is also supported by the same type of MTIP federal funding. I just received word from our underwriters this morning that currently the market shows potential savings of 4.47% or an additional $3.6 million. So if these conditions continue, we'll be combining a refunding with the new money issue. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Well, apparently they're going to refinance some other bond with this bond, and it's going to save some interest, or who the hell knows what they're really doing, okay? We really don't have the slightest idea. I mean, I just listened to this, you just listened to this. We know they're going to get $55 million plus all the interest that, well, they're not going to get the interest. The banks are going to get that. Who knows what they're really up to? They want $55 million to feed their staff so they can keep planning and planning and planning.